Fatimids were also responsible for establishing one of the most respected madrasas in Islamic history. In 971, the Al-Azhar Madrasa was founded within the walls of the Al-Azhar Mosque, where thousands of students were sent to study Islam and Arabic. The madrasa was initially founded as a Shia school, but was eventually transformed into a Sunni school. During the Fatimid era, the madrasa was not classified as a university. The transition from madrasa to university occurred considerably after its foundation. Hospitals were highly regarded and advanced throughout the Fatimid era. In addition to treating the sick, these hospitals were responsible for teaching and expanding the knowledge of the staff of health professionals. In Fustat, there was an endowed hospital known as Al-Birstan Al-Atiq. The hospital was also known as the Upper, as there was another hospital known as the Lower, located in downtown Fustat. The Upper contained exceptional equipment and ample supplies to carry out its objective of providing services to the poor and rich alike. The hospital also contained a well-furnished library and 2 bath halls for men and women. Al-Birstan continued to serve the community for almost 4 centuries, up to the Mamluk era in the 14th century. The Lower Hospital in downtown Fustat was built in 957. Its wards and kitchens contained an abundant supply of food and drug supplies, in addition to the equipment needed for the apothecary shop. The hospital also boasted spacious rooms for a library and lecture halls that encouraged the teaching of progressive medical knowledge.
When analyzing the daily garments of the Fatimid style of clothes, one can see that it protected them from the sun, the cold, and the eyes of the unknown. Wraps are simply large rectangles of fabric draped and pinned to conceal the body. Yet there were no fewer than 10 different types of wraps used in the Fatimid period of Middle Eastern history. We have noticed that the rida was considered the basic garment of the Islamic wardrobe for men. It was worn several ways: to cover the head and body, a coverall, draped like a cloak, or wrapped to go style around the body and left shoulder, leaving the right arm free. Women's ardea were distinct from the men's, but there is no mention in the Cairo Geniza of what made them different. Women's ardea were fastened with fibula, called simply a rida pin. They have also the half rida that was also frequently listed in bridal goods and was described as shorter than a standard rida. The half rida was occasionally lined, whereas the rida was never listed as such in the bridal goods. Typical cost across the 2 types was of a quarter of a dinar to 7 dinars. The izar was a common item in men's clothing and slightly less common for women. Men's and women's are noted as distinct from each other, but the Geniza records do not yield a description of the difference. A man could be considered fully dressed if both his head was covered and an izar was wrapped around his waist. The mula'a was usually worn by men and women as a cover-up, but was also worn as a cape thrown over the shoulders by men more than women. The mula'a was made of 2 or more pieces of cloth sewn together along the length and is described as large as enveloping. The ma'raka is a small fitted cap that absorbs sweat from the brow and protects the rest of the bedgear from the body soil. The root word of ma'raka is sweat. Kamis is the chemise or shift, the layer closest to the skin, and the sirwal are called jars, but were more similar to pajama bottoms in that they reached to the ankle.